Alright, chat. This video is called Marvel Rivals has an Ultron problem.
I like Marvel Rivals, obviously. I like archetypes, obviously. But I'm
Alright.
noticing a growing trend within Marvel Rivals, especially over Season 5, that I feel like could be an opportunity for Marvel Rivals to do something really, really cool in the hero shooter space, and also just generally be really healthy for the game. I believe that right now, the three role idea is too restrictive, and Marvel Rivals, which has a huge bombastic character roster, just isn't going to work. Specifically, characters like Ultron, even Black Widow, and arguably even a little bit of Gambit would really benefit from this new idea. So let's break down the actual problem. If I were to approach a brand new player, a player that knows
Wait,
absolutely
is he saying that there either needs to be no roles or there needs to be more roles? Because I feel like I don't know. I feel like the three role system's working pretty well.
nothing about Marvel Rivals and asked them to pick a character that is better at DPS duelist stuff, right? Who would be the better pick? Black Widow or Ultron? Okay, same question, different objective. What if I were to ask that new player,
It's a good point. I feel like Ultron is better at getting kills than Black Widow. I mean, unless you're a really good Widow, Ultron is way easier to use.
with the Phoenix team up active, who's a better support? Well, there's a bit of a debate there, but I think you kind of understand what I'm getting at. The idea of a strategist doesn't fully fit Ultron, and I really do believe that's a major reason why he hasn't been able to really see any high competitive play or has had a hard time just generally getting buffs and nerfs that make sense is because there's not really a spot for him. Likewise, Widow is
I
starting
don't know what I don't know why they put Ultron as a strategist. His main thing is getting kills.
to get moved into a direction that I think is really healthy for her as a pseudo strategist. But to have her just randomly have this thing attached to her that completely alters and changes her kit in terms of how she operates is not good for new players. Most new players don't completely understand how this system works. Now, in the past, I've argued for a sort of multi-classing so that players can sort of understand that. And I do believe
Yeah.
that is still absolutely something that could be helpful, but I've come up with a potentially better idea, a more holistic and more simplified approach. Because characters like these don't fit the same genre or the same archetype, and it might be good to better understand.
Please just take away Ultron's healing and give him something else and make him a different role. Please. His healing's not good. He shouldn't be considered a strategist at all. And people try to justify, oh, we have a second or a third healer. We have Ultron. No, you don't. You don't have another healer. Ultron should not be considered a healer.
What their goals are. These restrictions that we're placing on these heroes force every single hero to be the best at their job. When we're picking a duelist, we're trying to pick the duelist that deals the most damage, gets the most kills, and so on and so forth. But if a duelist was able to get a decent amount of healing on the board while also dealing damage, that's arguably just as worth it, if not more worth it, than just raw kills. But we don't value them that way. The same goes with the Ultron problem in somebody like Luna Snow. Luna Snow is always going to be a better character than Ultron because she's
Yes.
doing what her role is intended to do more thoroughly. Until Ultron is able to at least rival some of the utility that Luna Snow has, he's just never going to see play. So if he was not competing for that, and if players were able to understand that there was maybe something else that helps fill a broader audience or a broader gap, yeah, that actually might solve the problems. I have two different ideas. The first idea is one I've talked about in the past, and that's sort of a gradient system. At the very tippy tip of our current hero selection screen, we have the tankiest of tanks, the heroes that the community or the developers have generally decided on.
I don't know. I feel like this isn't a good idea. I feel like the one thing we need to do is if they're a healer, they're a healer. If they're a fucking tank, they're a tank. If they're a duelist and their point is to get kills, they get kills. I don't think there should be any gray area here. Like, yeah, you can have power-ups to where some characters can now do healing and stuff like that. Like, I think that's a good idea, but they don't do it all the time. Like, Ultron should not be focused on getting kills only, and then having a fucking thing that sits on somebody and heals them. On one person. That's so pointless.
As being the best as a sort of solo tank. So the higher up you go, the more likely you are to be able to solo tank. And then on the opposite side of the list, on the very, very bottom, where the strategists are, the more likely you are to be able to solo support. Now, of course, these are still not recommended, but at least it gives you an idea of how much it is you're going to be focusing on doing one job versus another. And the in-between areas is where we can start adding some more of these heroes that sort of hybridize between these two. So, for example, the jump between Vanguard and Duelist can have Mr. Fantastic in there, and then the jump between Duelist and Strategist can have, let's say, Ultron or Black Widow in there. And while I think the system is great and I think it's fine, I think the better idea is to instead add a fourth category. It's a category that already exists in our minds, and it would just help break up a little bit of what already is a well overpopulated role of the Duelist into something that actually makes them feel a little bit more unique, and especially to something like Marvel Rivals, I think it'd be pretty cool. The idea here is that this is the Enforcers category. This category is designed to fill the same exact jobs as Primal Flame boosted Widow or Ultron.
Wait, I don't know. Does his beam that he shoots out of his hand, does that heal the team? I don't know. I've never played Ultron, but I've heard that the drone is stupid and dumb and pointless. But
generally, and the idea is that they're a mix between a duelist and a support. They're a sort of battle medic. And now NetEase and the players can start building their teams or designing heroes around that idea, around being a sort of jack of all trades of master of none. Now, at least when you're picking heroes, you understand, okay, well, if I'm playing Widow, and obviously we can have updated characters like Widow to fill this role outside of it just strictly being a team up, I understand that I'm partially a strategist. So if I'm playing two enforcers, let's say I'm playing both Widow and Ultron, having a single support, let's say, I don't know, Luna Snow again, because we've used her before, actually isn't that bad. That actually is probably enough healing for the game. We can start designing characters, again, like Widow, around playing somewhat more into their support role. So imagine if Widow's ult not only dealt what it already is doing, but also gave all the heroes that she hit that are friendly a burst of about 200 healing. Is this a game changer? No. Would it break Widow? I don't think so. I mean, Widow obviously needs some help anyway, so something like this, building her into that idea, would absolutely be more beneficial. Likewise, Ultron maybe can start building into more of a sort of DPS thing. Maybe his ultimate can maybe deal more damage, maybe cause some slows, maybe make it more of a worthwhile thing to deal as damage, as opposed to right now, it's just purely designed to mop up kills or, you know, solo focus a group of allies that are in desperate need of healing. I actually would not be surprised at all if Rogue ends up fitting perfectly into this imaginary fourth category, because at least what some of the stuff I've seen about her, it definitely seems like she's not going to be the standard MO. She's going to fit something that is definitely listed as a jack of all trades. But again, these are all just speculations and stuff, and this is all just kind of stuff I've seen on the side from mostly unreliable sources. So who's to say? I mean, just imagine the world of opportunities that open up to us.
wait,
Like,
so is her ultimate gonna be if whoever she touches, she kills? Like, that's the side effect of her powers in the comics, by the way. If she touches someone, they die. If her skin touches somebody else's skin, the person she touched dies. Because she drains their life force, basically. But she also, like I just said, has the power of draining somebody's life force and taking their power from them. I'm pretty sure is how it works, if I remember correctly.
Imagine if Storm, who already has some support elements to her, in her speed boost mode, actually gave just the tiniest bit of passive healing. That's probably something that would work as a team up. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if someday in the future she does get something like that. But what if that was just something she had already, making Storm have a bit more of a decided niche into the game, rather than continuing to try to struggle to figure out what the correct damage boost number is for her. Then you could throw characters like Mantis, or maybe even Adam Warlock in there, who absolutely can make up a good portion of your team's healing, but they kind of do their own thing with duelist stuff, right? They already are sort of DPS characters, and having new players understand that these heroes are better at that sort of thing would be helpful for everybody, especially the low elo players. Now we're no longer reliant on these team ups which will come and go, and instead we can actually just focus in on this idea. We can start making these heroes be a little bit easier to communicate to new players as well. Now when players load in, they see that there's that fourth category that fills this sort of mixed role between all these three other categories that are listed there.
I don't know about that, because just fuck. Just make strategist healer and take Ultron out of healer. And potentially Gambit. Because Gambit's only half a healer. Ultron is like a fourth of a healer. Like, some of these characters are way better healers than other characters, if that makes any sense.
Not going to be able to play two of these enforcers in order to make up their team's healing. They know that it's just an additional help. Now, of course, the argument could be made that maybe there should be a category between tanks and duelists, but I think the tanks and duelists kind of make sense more as being separate categories already. They're already sort of overlapping. Most duelists are trying to not get hit and deal damage, which is kind of what the tanks are doing. The vanguards are doing already too. They just have a lot more forgiveness in the don't take damage area, right? Of course, this is all just speculation, and maybe this isn't necessary at all, but I do think as Marvel Rivals continues to add more and more heroes to their roster, as the game gets bigger and bigger and bigger, better communication is going to be more important, and I just don't think you can wrap everything in the same bundle and expect players to be able to climb out of low
and
gold.
that's the thing, is now since they're selling us stuff with these characters, they'll never be able to take the characters away from us. If they do, the game will die. If they do that, the game will die. People will stop playing if they take the things that we bought from us. And they're just adding more and more and more and more and more characters. There's going to be so many that they're gonna have to find specific powers and like balances for every character, every team. It's gonna get crazy, and it already kind of is.
But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I really do love discussions on stuff like this. I know this is a bit from the hip, as it were, but I think it's fun. Let me know what your thoughts are. Check out this video on your screen now for more.
That was a good video. I don't like. I feel like, yeah, call strategist healers at this point and take the ones that barely do any healing out of healer. I don't know. I feel like that's a good solution. What is going on with my like lighting today? This is weird as fuck. I don't know, I feel like that's better. Anyways, chat, if you enjoyed, like and subscribe. I will see y'all later.